real drivers up here.
Hi everyone, I'm Charles Bradley, Global Editor-in-Chief of Motorsport.com, and today here in Miami, it's our pleasure to welcome Gerard Neveu, the CEO of the World Endurance Championship. Gerard, great to have you here. You're in Florida for a reason. We're going to return to Sebring this weekend. How are you looking forward to that?
It's really exciting, I have to say, and we are very impatient to be there for next week. Very frankly, we just come down from Sebring to make this visit with you today in the Motorsport headquarters in Miami. Then I will go back to Sebring because we're in the middle of the setup of the event, but this is definitely in the middle of the heart of the sports car and the endurance world program, I have to say. So we are very excited.
Because it was 7 years ago the World Endurance Championship began right there.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How has the championship evolved in those 7 years?
Very interesting. If you look when we arrived 7 years ago for the first round of the WEC there, it was a total different event. First of all, we were racing on the same race than the 12 hours because it was a 22 cars, if I'm well, something like this, so very limited number. This year will be 34 cars, so that's nothing to compare with the numbers. The car was different also, and all the technology and everything around, I have to say. The logistic is totally different, the technical setup is totally different, and the championship is now stronger, far away, comparing with 2012. Nevertheless, what we try to do in Sebring for a parallel event on the same weekend, it means that you will have the 12 hours on Saturday and you will have the 1,000 miles on the Friday evening. And as you know, the fans spend normally the global week. They stay there from the Thursday until the Sunday to enjoy and to celebrate the endurance and
so
the
they
sports
get
car.
twice the fun.
They will have, exactly, and it will be something very, I would say, very spectacular and very complementary at the end. But we just finished the setup of the paddock, and this is really very impressive because you will have on the same avenue, on the same boulevard, you will have two consecutive huge paddock, the American one and the WEC one, and for the fan it will be something incredible. Probably the biggest avenue you have never seen anywhere before.
And of course, the track is probably the bumpiest in the world. It's in the middle of nowhere as well, but it makes it just so special, doesn't it?
The track is something totally unique. That's probably the drivers, the competitors accept the media also, accept many things in Sebring they will never accept anywhere in the world because this is Sebring. So the media center is something not permanent. The track is something incredible, very tricky, a lot of difficulties, and you race days, night, and you're so close from the public also. You have this what we call the zoo in the middle, which is the infield where all the fans stay around for all the weekend and they really enjoy. When I left the circuit this morning, you have the first fan arriving with the motorhome, and they have the same position since many years, and they organize the private terrace on the top just to make sure that they will enjoy. Yeah,
and the beers inside.
Yeah, absolutely, a lot, and there is many things to refuel during the weekend for sure. Indeed. But definitely what we can say is that this is a place totally dedicated for the race. When you arrive inside the circuit, you smell the motorsport immediately, and the public is totally inside the paddock. So you're in contact with the competitors. When they will visit the main paddock avenue, they will see all the cars, all the structures, all the garages. They will be in touch with the drivers. So it could be something very special. Yeah,
I can't wait to hear from Fernando Alonso what he thinks about that. Yeah. Let's talk about Toyota. Obviously, we've had this fantastic battle between the two cars this year. Fernando's car won Le Mans, and then since then the other car's been really coming back in the points. It's just a really good headline fight between those two guys at the front of the field, isn't it?
Yeah, fortunately Toyota never applied any strategy so far, so it means that there is really competition between the two cars from Toyota. And at the same time, the gap between the priorities and the LMP1 Toyota is reduced. Never enough, because we would like to see exactly the car at the same level, but this is difficult because one car has now 4 or 5 years story before, and the new LMP1 priorities just has been launched a few months ago. So you need some time, some run, some experience to increase the level of the cars and the competitivity. But at the end, the show can be very interesting. The Toyota will have probably the record of the fastest lap on the circuit that we never have been before, regarding what we saw during the free practice this weekend, the free testing. And on the same time, you're right, we will still have this battle between the two different cars in Toyota to know who can be the leader. And we're on the second part of the super season now. So that means that Sebring will be a very important result, because after that you have just Le Spa in May, then you have the super final in Le Mans. So any result will happen now will be probably very important for the future and for the end of the season.
Of course, this super season format, it's going to feel so special to win the championship when you've had 2 Le Mans 24 hours.
Yeah, which is unique, because at the end, only for the super season you will be able to say I'm champion, because I raced twice Le Mans the same season.
Yeah.
And it was also the opportunity for us to install this new reverse calendar, which will happen definitely next year. We will start the season in September, and we will finish automatically every season in June in Le Mans, which makes sense for us, because it will be a long way with 7 or 8 races to rejoin the super final.
Yeah. We talked about battles then. I don't think there's any harder battle than in LMP2. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? There's always, you never really know who's going to be right at the front and who's going to be on the pace. What do you think we're going to look forward to this weekend?
Same, we saw during this weekend, last weekend, when they've made the free practice, that the level was very close between the different cars. Oreca is a chassis who has fiability and he has efficiency since a long time, but we saw also Ligier reducing a lot of the gap, and we have very performant teams. So it will be very interesting. And same, this is whatever it is. It means that we don't care about the chassis, but there is battle between teams, and there is still a big battle with the Jackie Chan team and the Alpine team. And this is a very competitive team, so interesting to see what's happened. The fact also is that in Sebring, you're racing days, night. This is very tricky track with a lot of trap can happen for the drivers and for the cars, and at the same time the traffic will be something that you will have to manage, because this is if I'm well, something like 6 kilometers track, the length of the track, but there is some very fast part and some very slow parts, so many things can happen with the traffic also. So, and the temperature, we already know that we will have a sunshine, because this is the sunshine state. So we will have a sunshine on Friday, exactly. And if I'm well, the temperature expected is around 30 Celsius degrees, which is very hot for the engine after 5 or 6 hours of race. So many things will happen. So everything is open in LMP2. But probably the very interesting part of the grid will be the GTE, because you have 5 different brands. And we saw also last weekend 4 of the 5 brands in the same second, more or less. So it will be totally open, definitely. Many things will happen also. We saw since the beginning of the season that Porsche has made some good strategy, winning Le Mans last year and some advance at the classification. But for the last races of the season, many things can happen. Ford have made a serious preparation with Ferrari here for this race. BMW is looking absolutely for a result, because they need to improve the result. Aston Martin had a good experience of this race also and this track. So at the end, many things will happen for sure. So, and it will be totally open.
And it's Ford's home turf, so they're really going to be pushing hard for Sebring, of course. We've got Corvette as well. Good to see one of those yellow machines.
Yeah, we have. I have to say that clearly. Corvette play very well the story with us. They came to Shanghai to make a race with us. They will be at Le Mans, as you know.
Of course.
And they will participate also for the US round, which is for us very important, because Corvette is the part of the DNA of the sports car, the endurance, and Le Mans also. So it's good to have them on board here. And this is always a very special car. So we are very, very happy to welcome the Corvette car on the grid here.
So this weekend, obviously, you're sharing the bill effectively with IMSA. How are the relationships with those guys? Obviously, you're very close to them. Yeah,
first of all, there is a long story. So when we arrived with WEC 7 years ago, the story already exists between IMSA and the ACO. This is like we say our cousin from America, and they say the same with us from Europe, from Le Mans. And there is 2 parallel stories. This is United States is probably the first country who has a huge interest for endurance with the classical country in Europe. So this is a permanent bridge that we try to establish and to maintain between these 2 continents through IMSA and ACO. And we have with Jim France and Pierre Fillon, or with Ed Bennett, Scott Atherton and myself, a permanent steering committee all together, and we try to maintain the story. We are facing now two different challenges. The dream from all of us will be to, and each of us will be to be able to provide a common top platform with the car that we can use on the WEC or at Le Mans and in IMSA.
Around the world.
It's absolutely for us the ideal story. It's not so simple to set up because there is existing DPI, there is new regulation arriving on our side, so it's very difficult, but we are still working very seriously and close together to try to find a point where we can rejoin together. And in any case, I think that I will not speak on behalf of Scott Atherton or the people from IMSA, but I'm pretty sure that they are like us. They are very delighted and pleased that this weekend we will have the two major platforms on the same place for the same weekend and the same event, and we will share with the fans and with the media a real passion for these categories of motorsport. And it's a good illustration when two promoters are able finally to set up an event. This is a very difficult exercise. It's so easy to set up your own event on your own site. Yeah. And now the fact that we have to put close together on the same weekend two major events is the big challenge for all the respective teams from IMSA and from WEC. Yeah. And it has been something very, very tough, I have to say. But we work very well together, and I'm sure at the end the delivery will be amazing, and we will have two great events on the same weekend, which is absolutely unique also, like Sebring.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of smiling faces, so I think the hard work will be worth it. So I can't let you go without just asking you one final question about the 2020-2021 hypercar regulations.
So you are the real Charles Bradley, I'm
Indeed,
sure now.
Indeed, I have to do it to the guys at home. Just, can you tell me where you're at with them at the moment, and what can you tell us?
But it's difficult to speak about something was not totally closed now. So this is still on process and on a working way now. The fact is that I'm like you, I'm very impatient. I would prefer for sure to make sure that we can tell you, okay, these manufacturers officially announced that they are coming inside. That's not exactly the point, but this is still very close. Last week in Geneva, all the principal OEMs interested by this regulation, and there were more than I've never been before, so it's very interesting. 6 or 7 of them stay around the table. They met the technical delegate from ACO, from FIA, with Pierre Fillon and Richard Mille from the FIA and Jean Todt, and they were discussing for the final wording, for some details, for some small modification to make sure that the majority of them can rejoin. So this is still on process. We would prefer that it's going quickly, but this is like it is. So, and they are still discussing on that point. And the last week was very positive in Geneva, but at the end only the result will be important, and we will just remember about who is coming or not, and that's on the hand of the OEM. So I cannot speak on their behalf, but I'm pretty sure that in the coming weeks you will have a clear positioning from each of them, and you will have an idea about what will be these categories in 2 or 3 years for the championship, in 20 or 21, depending the schedule for each of them. But there is still a huge interest, and this is still on the table, definitely. But too early, because now I think that the next people who will be able to speak very well about this regulation are supposed to be the OEMs who say we want to rejoin. But the mean of the regulation is exactly the one that you already know in advance. That's hypercar style, that's brand identification. This is something very competitive between the different cars, with a window of performance to make sure that there is really a battle. So we will privilege the show, the action, what's happened on the track, which is really important. And we try also to take in consideration the marketing side with the brand and the battle between the legendary brand in hypercar in this category. So I hope that at the end this regulation will take care first about the interest of the fans and of the people for the motorsport, which is for me the most important at the end. Yep. We have to be careful with the political approach, and we have to be more paying attention for what the fans are looking for.
Indeed. Okay, well, thank you for that answer.
Thank you. I hope that we will be many of you together with us in the paddock in Sebring. And in any case, you will have a chance to follow us on Motorsport Network also. But it will be a huge event, and I'm sure that the last part of the super season will be absolutely something very interesting for all the fans.
Well, thanks so much for coming in.
Pleasure for your invitation.
Now,
thank you very much.
You better get back to Sebring.
Yeah.
There's a race to run.
And I have a place for you in my car if you
Okay.
want. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.